Hi, I'm Chris Bono. I'm with EasyTurf. I'm their putting green designer and expert in the field of synthetic golf greens.
Chris Bono is EasyTurf's resident putting green and design installation expert. Chris is an avid golfer. He loves the game, and over the past 12 years of designing and installing putting greens, he knows all the do's, don'ts, tricks, and cheats. This putting green installation tutorial shares the most important details of his experience. Bent grass putting greens are frequently the putting green of choice for golfers playing at least once to twice a week. Avid golfers prefer bent grass greens because of their unparalleled authenticity to natural greens and the fully customized green speeds. He recommends a low infill putting green product for families and households with larger dogs or multiple pets. Low infill putting greens are also the way to go for those who are looking for a putting green more as a backyard game than a tool to hone and improve on their performance on the course. The average backyard putting green needs to be 400 to 700 square feet to give enough room for multiple breaks, mounding, moguls, undulations, and even double breaks. A little bit of crowning can also be created over a large area. A putting green installation is a 10-step process. 1. Current landscape evaluation. 2. The green design process. 3. Ground preparation. 4. Cup placement. 5. Pad installation. 6. Turf installation. 7. Fringe installation. 8. The infill process. 9. Rolling and fine-tuning green speed. 10. Inspection, cleanup, and polish. Step 1. The current landscape evaluation. Before you even get into the putting green design and installation process, you really need to take a look at your available landscape. Take a look around the yard for any large trees, even adjacent trees that could potentially drop on the green. Trees that bear fruit or berries should be especially avoided as they may build up and create stains over the life of the green. With adult trees, it's easy to see if roots will be an issue, but sometimes people don't notice less mature adjacent trees that could grow large roots or push spider roots into the playing area. Tree roots can always be dealt with, but you can save yourself a lot of hassle if you factor them in when planning the best location for the putting green. Now it's time to scope out the existing drainage of the area. Does the yard pool in any given area? What type of landscape will surround the green? And are there existing sprinklers in those surrounding plant beds? If possible, you will want to change adjacent irrigation out to a drip system or possibly redistribute sprinkler heads or replace with quarter heads. This is all to avoid overwatering of the green, which can lead to calcium deposits or hard water spots. If changes can't be made to adjacent irrigation and hard water spots occur, calcium deposits can be successfully removed using CLR, which can be purchased at most any store where cleaning supplies are sold. During this location assessment, it is also important to look and see if gophers or moles are present on the property. If they are, they can damage the structural integrity of the putting green by trenching and burrowing beneath the green. This creates weaknesses in the underlying grain and could potentially lead to sinkage in the green or collar. If gophers or moles are present, a wire mesh known as gopher wire will be installed before the decomposed granite is laid. This gopher wire should be installed so that it scoops slightly up at the edges. This will prevent gophers or moles from burrowing in between the wire and the green. Also, keep an eye out for where there could have been a previous gopher or mole issue and the property was not thoroughly backfilled and compacted. If this is the case, there will be obvious soft spots. It is best to avoid these soft areas if they exist or are planned to properly fill and compact the area as a part of the ground preparation process before laying the turf. Step 2. The green design process. Once you have determined the best location for the putting green, it's time to think about green design. Less avid golfers will commonly desire larger turns, mounds, and breaks. A putting green for them is more of a backyard showpiece and fun family game than a consistent training tool that is precisely accurate to the game of golf. Golf course putting greens typically don't break that much, so if that professional surface is desired, the green is typically designed with 15 to 20 feet to each cup and a slight break. It is best to walk the space, identify potential breaks, and how the green can work with the existing vegetation present. A can of spray paint is helpful to give a visual of how the green can be contoured to fit the space. At this point, you will also want to decide how many cups would be best for this particular putting green. Typically, customers desire at least 3 cups on their green. From here, an accurate measurement is needed to determine materials. To get an accurate measurement for a putting green, mark 8 to 10 points on the outer edge of the putting green from top to bottom. Measure the width of the putting green at each point and then average those numbers. Now you have the average width of the putting green. From here, you simply measure the length of the putting green and the average width by the length. This is how much putting green material will be needed. To measure for fringe product, do the same thing. Take the average width of the fringe, include both left and right sides, times the total length of the putting green, plus the amount the fringe will extend above and below the putting green. For example, if the fringe will extend 2 feet from either edge of the putting green in most places, but 3 or 4 feet in other places, take the average, which is 3 times the length of the green, which let's say is 30. But we want to go 2 feet further than that on each end. So that's 34 times 3 is 102. So you need 102 square feet of fringe. Step 3. Ground preparation. If the existing lawn needs to be removed as part of the installation process, sod cutters are typically used on a moist lawn. Cut the sod so that it is slightly lower than the bottom of the root line of the lawn, 2.5 to 3 inches deep. Cap sprinklers as far back to the source as you can without threatening surrounding landscape, ideally at the valve or timer level for a certain area. It is best not to have water sitting in any irrigation line active or inactive below the green, as a leak could weaken the soil and the DG, causing sinkholes and possibly tear out and replacement of the putting green. After the lawn is successfully removed, the decomposed granite or other similar subbase material is brought in depending on the local subbase requirements. These are determined by geography. In most areas, 500 feet of putting green would require 5 tons or 10,000 pounds of subbase material. This is one of the most crucial portions of the installation, as this is where all of the movement of the ball is created. A skilled golf green designer will lead the installation crew, directing the mounding and placement of the subbase material. He'll direct specific drops and how much in each area. For best results, the crew and designer will moisten, compact, assess, and repeat. During this process, it is common for a skilled designer to take a soft inflated ball and roll it across the surface. This will show where the breaks are and can help in the design process. Rule of thumb here: if a basketball doesn't break as it rolls across the compacted area, neither will the golf ball. So it's crucial to make sure you have all the breaks and movement you want before you lay the green on the subbase. You may also want to mark the perimeter of the green now with spray paint to give yourself a guide when laying and cutting the putting pad. It's important to remember that the dirt dictates the finish of the green. If it's wrong, you could have a potential tear out on your hand. The entire sculpting and crafting of the subbase material of a golf green can be a 3 to 4 hour process. Step 4. Cup placement. Now that you have the perfect platform for your putting green, it's time to pick the perfect placement for the cups. Cup placement is all determined by how the subbase material was contoured. You will want the cups to be near the end of a break in the green. Undulation is crucial to cup placement and the movement of the golf ball. A post hole digger works best to remove dirt for the cup to fit in. Be sure to dig down deep enough to accommodate for the cup. The cup should be wrapped in mylar or plastic and should be placed in a hole dug that is about an inch wider than the cup. Pour mortar around the cup in that extra space you left and adjust the cup as necessary for solid positioning. You should also have a level on hand to ensure that the cup face is completely flat and not tilted. Step 5. Installing the putting pad. All putting greens will get faster over time. However, including a putting pad considerably lengthens the life of the green speed achieved upon installation. A putting pad is also crucial to the authenticity of ball reaction when chipping from fringe areas. The putting cushion is laid over top the subbase and over top of the cups. Depending on weather, without the weight of the green and the sand infill, the pad will likely shift, so don't cut your holes out of the pad just yet, or they may wind up being off. Now roll out the putting pad larger than the area that the putting green turf will cover. There will be a little overlap when you seam in the fringe. Now it's time to mark the putting green pad in more precise manner to the shape of the putting green. Here the extra putting pad you laid comes in handy for this step, which leaves you with lines to follow when laying the putting green. Once the putting green is cut and laid out, clean any debris off with a leaf blower to ensure there aren't any unexpected bumps when between the pad and the putting turf material. Even a small twig or leaf between the pad and the green can ruin a break and the look of the green. Laying the putting green. Cut the putting green using the guide you painted on the putting pad, and be sure to cut the green 1 inch wider than the guide. This will give you the wiggle room you need when connecting fringe. Here's another reminder not to cut the holes in the green just yet. You'll want to wait until you've done at least one pass with the washed silica sand infill. That's about 500 to 700 pounds of weight. Once you get there, then you can cut the holes. It's a good idea to leave the cups in the up position when you are laying the green so that when it comes time to cut the holes, you know where to find them. As always, when cutting the perimeter of turf, detail and precision are paramount. Sloppy cuts can make sloppy greens. Cut just 6 to 12 inches of putting green at a time using a standard utility or carpet knife. Go slowly and follow your guideline. Step 7. Installing the fringe. The detailed installation of the fringe is a solid 4 to 6 hours of the project. If you have a 2 or 3 man crew, you can start shaping your fringe as you are cutting the putting green material. Shaping, gluing, and stapling can all be done with the fringe installation while you're shaping the putting green, but don't nail out the perimeter of the putting green yet, because you still have a lot of infill to put in that will flatten the turf even more, extending your perimeter edge. A thatched product is always the recommended product for fringe. It blends best with the putting green products and has the most authentic apron look and feel. Remember, all of these cuts need to be very precise when attaching fringe to the perimeter of the putting green. Aesthetically speaking, you can only infill about 1/8 of an inch gapping. It's best if the fringe and the turf are butting right up to each other. Step 8. The infill process. It's optimal to lay infill over sunny skies. The warmth of the sun will naturally cause the turf backing to relax and flatten. The weight of the sand also flattens the turf, so if it's sunny, you'll be weighing down the turf at its most relaxed state. The typical 400 square foot job we are describing here may require 30 bags of 30 grit sand. To start the infill process, drop 7 bags in using a drop spreader, and then start power brooming the blades up to a 90-degree angle. Broom the sand in and around as evenly as possible over the entire area of the green. You will typically make 3 to 4 passes with infill in that same fashion. Drop spreader with sand then, power brooming the infill as evenly as possible. From power brooming, you move to fine brooming. At the fine brooming stage, you will need soft push brooms. Begin working out any heavy spots in the green which could create irregular bending of the turf. This is detailed broom work to get the sand even more perfectly distributed throughout the entire green. The fine brooming stage is complete when the putting green surface looks like a grouping of fine snake scales. The tighter the grouping when you are looking directly down on the turf, the better job you did brooming. If you did the entire infill process correctly, you should still have about 1/8 of an inch of loft sticking above the infill. Now you're going to dress the top of the turf with colored infill. Drop bags of green and black acrylic coated silica sand using the drop spreader. You will typically need 1 50-pound bag for every 100 square feet of putting green. It's a good idea to have 1 or 2 extra bags of sand on hand just in case. You can always use in other areas once complete. Gently broom this sand in using a soft broom, being careful not to mix the white and now colored layers of infill. All you're doing here is getting out heavy spots or mounding of the colored infill and distributing the sand evenly. Step 9. Rolling and fine-tuning green speed. Once the colored top layer of infill is evenly distributed, it's time to start the roll of the putting green. The rolling of the turf is what actually bends the grass blades, giving the authentic bent grass play. This is also the step where the green speed is determined. Depending on the weather that day, you may be able to get by with a hand roller. Putting green rolling is most ideal during warmer months. Commercial grade rollers are best, and cold weather installations are still possible with a retrofit heater inserted into a commercial grade roller. Rolling the putting green can take from 15 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the type of roller use. All artificial putting greens will get faster as they age. You can always roll a green faster, but you can't back up and make it slower, so it's best to be conservative when rolling the green to the desired speed. The key to a great bent grass look is rolling the green in multiple directions. First bend one way, then the other, and then repeat. You can roll right over the top of cups during this procedure. Once you've rolled the green to the desired speed, you should never need to roll an artificial putting green again. Now, ensure the putting green cups are 1/4 inch lower than the top edge of the putting green and detail the cups out. Vacuum the excess sand out of the cups and then clean the edge of the cup holes with scissors. Step 10. Inspection, cleanup, and polish. Now it's time to walk the job and fine-tune things. Look for places where white sand may be showing and sprinkle the green and black infill to cover up those areas. Make sure all of your perimeter seams are blended nicely. Place pins and flags. Take a couple of shots on the new putting green, and most importantly, take photos of the finished green and share them on Facebook.com/EasyTurf Inc.